Does agriculture hand out trophies for the wrong achievements? That's what we're talking about, my friends in the Granary.
You ready for a conversation with some real farmers about real issues? And the best part, you're invited. So pour yourself a drink, grab a snack, most importantly, pull up a chair. Welcome to the Granary. Hey guys.
All right, guys, welcome to the Granary. As you'll notice here, Galynn Beer is our guest. He's with AgroLiquid, the sponsor of this episode and several other episodes. We love our friends at AgroLiquid Fertility Company. I got Kelly Garrett and I got Johnny Verell. And I've got these trophies that our friend Galynn, last time he was here, commented a lot about my trophies. And you actually kind of thought I was still a high school Harry carrying on about it. And I said, actually, I haven't even polished them in at least 3 weeks. So, I just want you to know how important they are to me. But all gimmickry aside, and by the way, I was the champion dairy beef steer in 1982. That's brown Swiss steer. It was a really nice looking steer. It really was. We butchered him. Anyway, we get excited in agriculture about high yields. You go to these conferences. You got one. Cool, neat, wonderful. We give all sorts of trophies away for how much yield you have. Where's the yield for ROI? Where's the yield for net worth? Where's the yield for how much I've grown my operation as a business instead of how many bushels I got?
Yeah, so Damian, you do have your trophies out here, which would, lead us to believe maybe you still live a little bit in the past. Well, but if you're going to talk about this in the context of farming, we probably need to get your past out of the way.
I would like to point out that in 1987, I got the most improved. You know the thing about getting the most improved trophy? It basically says, last year you sucked. They don't give most improved to the person that was already good, right?
Don't try, then try.
We'll get these off the table just because I want, and they probably won't be like anyway in the shot if I put them back here, will they? Maybe just like that. So they're kind of on display for afterwards. Okay, there we go. Do we give away trophies for the wrong stuff? Yes. It's all about yield. I've never once seen businessman of the year, farmer. I've seen most yield. Talk to me.
I do agree with what you're saying there. All of the awards are for quantity. There should be awards for quality. Mm-hmm. The best quality corn, the best quality soybeans, whatever that metric is decided to be. And of course, a big pile of corn is a lot of fun when we talk about quantity, but ROI is really what's important.
Now, you're a business guy. I think you do have trophies. I've been to your office. I don't know that you let it impede your development. You don't go around saying, hey, look at this. I got this award back in 2019. We awarding the wrong things?
You can. If we're talking about yield contests, we always talk about how high the yield was. We don't talk what it costs to get there. And I think that's what Kelly was alluding to. Things have changed so much in the last few years, especially since, I started networking with these guys at XtremeAg. It really opened my eyes when you start looking at what stuff really costed and how Kelly can do it for maybe so many less units of nitrogen than we can. And you start thinking, well, can we do that? And so that's kind of where that starts opening up. And then, some of the new competitions or challenges that are out there where you do have competitions who can get a lower nitrogen use and with a higher yield, that type of thing. That's what I'm getting more interested in, because at the end of the day, we can't keep farming like we've been farming.
Actually, that's the one I liked. You got an award, and it was based on units of applied nitrogen. When you're awarding less natural resource consumption and still retaining output, that's the stuff we should put trophies for.
Yeah, definitely. I do think, though, that no matter where you're at in life, you're always trying to figure out what is that pinnacle that you need to hit. And you do gun for it, to Johnny's point. Sometimes it's regardless of how much money you invest. But I think what happens is sometimes you hit that pinnacle and you're like, well, that field's never going to make any better than it did today. What's my next, what's my next goal? And so these guys are kind of pointing us in a direction that there is something else you can shoot for besides 600 bushel to the acre corn. Can you do it and still turn a profit in the process?
It's kind of like, what's the old thing? Doing wheelies on a tricycle. It looks neat, but what the hell does it actually accomplish? That kind of thing. It's kind of like, I think that also like, oh boy, you got 600 bushel of corn. You lost money doing so. But farm people tend to geek out over this. We're just a commodity classic. Look at the banners that are up on the ceiling. Did they say Best ROI? Did they say contributed to net worth the most? Best balance sheet? It was high yield, high yield, high yield, high yield, high yield. That's all it was.
And those are big accomplishments. I mean, for some of these levels they're doing, I mean, they're really where I'm at. It's not achievable really, but it gives me goals, and you can learn things that they're doing that you might can do that might not be the $1,000 acre cost. It might be a $10, $15, $20 acre cost that can get you up 10, 15 bushel too.
Yeah.
And I think, that's one thing we got to look at where Kelly can reduce his nitrogen needs where he is. I'm in, he's what, 500-600 pounds of nitrogen, some acres available, maybe more. I'm like -20 available, it seems like, in our soil type. So we're not in the same playing field, but we can still learn off each other.
Well, and I think, to your point there, you might not be able to do some of the yields that are on those banners at Commodity Classic, but you do know if you hit a home run on a field, because if you farmed it, you kind of know what its potential is.
Yeah.
Then there's also, Galynn, all joking aside about my high school hairiness and my old trophies, I think there's a real bad thing. What was it? One of the famous athletes, I don't know, Shaquille O'Neal, talked about his dad let him keep his trophies for one day and then went and put them away and said, that was yesterday's achievement. I think more people in general, whether they're an ag or not, should put away yesterday's trophies and say, okay, that was neat yesterday. Next.
I mean, to an extent, I agree. It was a good goal to hit that, but at the same time, if you're just going to let that be your shining moment, what are you going to do for the rest of your career? And I think that's the important thing is, okay, maybe if you ran a 4-minute mile, you'll never run it again. But what is the next thing that is, important or that you can kind of shoot for? If you grew 300 bushel the acre corn on 350 pounds of nitrogen, okay, the 350 bushels of corn was great. Can you do it on 200 pounds of nitrogen? You change your goalpost.
Change the calculus and what it takes.
I focus on the mistakes that we made or the things that I learned rather than the successes. So I guess that I would feel that we do put the trophy away right away because our expectations are so high. I look at all the things that went wrong and let's try to correct them for next year. Of course, the weather's different next year. Yeah. We don't know that we'll replicate the yield, but we still know what we can improve upon the process. Some of it is out of our hands.
Some is out of your hands. Do you put away trophies after a while?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes if you don't, it'll hurt your feelings too because you can't hit those goals you hit before. So, I mean, you got to look at it. It's not like if you hit 200 bushel corn this year, 250, 300, it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you'll hit a really good corn yield or any type of thing in life, and the next time it's hard to get back to that level. Some things change, you can't figure it out, and you'll spend 3 years trying to figure out what in the world I've done wrong.
What should we reward? Just ROI? I don't know. That sounds a little shallow, but when we say, but it's a business, what do you should we award?
I think you have to continue to award yield. ROI is a different thing for many people, and it's uncomfortable to talk about. I think there's some confidential numbers there that people don't want to disclose.
Well, usually because they're embarrassed of it.
You might be right. Yes, you might be right.
You know how much money I spent to not make any money? I spent a whole bunch of money to not make any money.
I hesitate to say this because we did do very well this year, but I think the yield relative to the inputs that you put in should be of more importance. It's Class J in the NCGA contest. Well, that's the low nitrogen.
You talk about the infinite game. That's the long-term challenge. When we talk about the word sustainability, what's it mean? You ask 100 different customers what sustainability means, you get 100 different answers. To me, it's using less natural resource than you're creating.
I agree, and the reason is because when you are looking at the yield relative to the nitrogen or relative to the inputs, there's a financial component in there. We all know that it was done with less money, without talking about the money.
Yeah,
and so I really think that that's important, especially in our regenerative, sustainable environment that we're in today.
So I think, Damian, you kind of hit on it there. It may be that thing that you can do every year is maximize your resources. Yep. It's resource utilization. Every year, to Kelly's point, is different. He doesn't know what the weather's going to be like this year, but can he make the most of the resources for the hand that he was dealt? And that trophy is a trophy that you should be gunning for every year.
There's no question, because it's really then about a reduction of our footprint on the earth. It's reduction of the expense. It's a reduction of everything that could be bad and an increase in the other stuff that is good. Yield.
And I think, just like they're saying, we're all focusing on yield, and there's a lot of reasons we're doing it because we're trying to also see what we can do to improve our farm average. But at the end of the day, if we win a yield contest, that's not as important as an ROI across the whole farm. And so, like, a lot of times we'll do things in these yield contests to try to push, and we know, well, we can make 300 bushel corn or whatever, and this is what we did to do that. Well, if we can figure out how to replicate that in a cost-effective way and get that ROI up on 1,000 acres of corn, not 2 acres, that's really the...
What can you scale?
That's right.
Yeah.
It's how you can scale it out. And, you know, and I think as you get older, you know, it seems like how hard I used to push for the high yield. I still push for it now, but things change over time too. And now you start thinking about, you know, where can I save money and still keep that yield up?
In 2020, 2021, 2019, I was always pushing for high yield. And I wanted to be the next person to raise 400 bushel corn in Iowa after Francis Childs. In 21, we accomplished 388. And I was proud of that, you know, but boy, I really wanted to break that 400. This year, there's another family in Iowa that made 405. And so I don't have the third highest yield in Iowa anymore. Now I have the fifth highest because I think they made 393 and 405. Really happy for them. But my prerogative or has changed just a little bit. I want to do it by scaling back. I like the Class J. I really want to see what I can do in the ROI area, in the low nitrogen area, things like that, because those are the research areas that we take to the rest of the farm and scale up, like John said. The NCGA contest acres are research acres for us.
That's how you look at it too.
Yeah, because we're not just doing this one yield contest. We usually have 6, 7 different ones, and we're trying different things on different soil types because it doesn't always work the same.
The plaque or not plaque is obviously not your objective. It's the learning.
Yeah, and it's a lot of work when you start doing these and you make multiple applications in these areas. And sometimes when you do all these extra applications, it decreases your yield because you get things out of balance. And that's one thing I think we've all kind of realized the last few years. It's more nitrogen does not equal more yield.
Almost, this becomes an antagonistic situation. I put so much crap out here that instead of it having the exponential effect, it had the antagonist.
But by doing that in these high areas where we're trying to do this, that's when it's an aha moment. We say, man, putting out 400 units of nitrogen and only making 250, 300 bushel, what caused that? Yeah. And that's when we start realizing we're doing this on the whole farm. We're putting out too much nitrogen on all the acres. We might not be putting out 400 units, but even at 300 or 250, whatever we're putting out, it's still too much. And we start getting down from a 1.2, bushel of nitrogen or bushel of corn per nitrogen, and now we're down to like 0.7, 0.6, going down that way. That's what we're learning, and it's from these. In my opinion, from these yield competitions where we're realizing it's not nitrogen that's just driving the yield all the way across the board.
We've changed so much in the last 3 years. Evans and Wingrove and I have started working with Clint and Luke and started working with Jared Cook. And then comes along calibrated agronomy. And now we use the SAP test and that technology. And I feel like we've almost started over. And the on-farm average has gone up. The use of fertility has gone down, which has increased the profitability. But I haven't made the incredibly high yield in those special dirt areas like we did before. And I think it's because we're reinventing the wheel on our farm a little bit, learning how to work in tune with Mother Nature. I believe and I hope that we'll get back there, but we haven't yet.
Would you be doing this whether there was the award or not? Would you be doing these experiments if there was the award or not? You would be, probably. You're doing field days for XtremeAg, etc.
Yeah.
Yes, I would now, but originally in 2016 when we first entered the contest, it was because NetFM encouraged me to do so. I had never entered it until then. Yeah. Kurt Graham, NetFM, Jim Ed Beach, Tim Wolf, they all pushed me to enter that because they wanted to promote Will Ofsted. They all pushed me to enter that because they wanted to promote NetFM in Iowa. I never had been exposed to anything like the Commodity Classic or the NCGA contest, anything like that. I found it to be a waste of time. But then after we started to do it, and then the research and the learning came in, then it was a lot of
cocaine.
Fun. Yes. Yeah. It became cocaine, and it was so much fun, and now our expectations are so high. I tell my sons, I'm like, we've taken all the fun out of this. Yeah. We're trying to play a round of golf and get a hole-in-one on all 18 holes.
I don't know if we're supposed to reference cocaine in a family show like this, Galynn. I mean, it's just,
I only know it's addictive from what you've told me.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Well,
you have a trophy for that?
I've been in show business. The best trophy I ever got was in 1974. I won the tricycle race downtown Huntington during Heritage Days.
Doing wheelies, right?
No, I got a kid that I was in the heat, and the kid started to pass me, so I wrecked him. And I learned something really valuable, because you talk about learning from these competitions. I learned that most people don't like getting injured, and if you have the threat of injury, you can win. So I learned if you can just always have people scared of you, it usually helps.
It's a competitive edge.
I've stayed nuts since then. I mean, it was really the trophy in 74
That was the coming out?
It set me on this path of being kind of nuts.
No one messes with you now. They saw the tricycle race.
Except for Will, who calls me routinely to tell me I'm a has-been. Aside from that. Do you have any trophies for agriculture?
No, I don't. Really. I mean, I think the thing that I just shoot for, I'm not really a trophy guy. So I just would rather be able to walk out in that field and evaluate, hey, are we doing the best with everything that we put out?
You give yourself the award? You look at your checkbook. You look at your checkbook and say, I gave myself an award this year because
I have patted myself on the back.
Well, you know what? Honestly, I think the award is if you can stay in this business, which is obviously consolidating, has been for 100 years. We've less farms today than there were, fewer farms today than there were yesterday, fewer farmers. If you can stay in this business and stay solvent, that deserves a trophy. Honestly,
Definitely. And it's interesting because we've talked about 400 bushel the acre corn, 600 bushel. You love the area that I live in. You always talk glowingly about the Oklahoma Panhandle and Guyman, Oklahoma. And,
there's one tree in the entire Panhandle.
And you can grow some good corn out there. There's some guys that are hitting that 300 bushel to the acre mark. But what's interesting is if you can grow dryland corn and hit 100 bushel to the acre, if you got on the combine with that guy growing 100 bushel the acre dryland corn on 15 inches of rain, the grin will be exactly the same as someone at 300 bushels per acre because it's relative to, are you doing the best with what
He's
you
got
have?
a big ROI.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, right. And also the achievement is as great because you're doing this against some pretty stout challenges.
Would 100 bushel dry land be as a big ROI as 300 bushel irrigated?
It would probably be better net income to the farm. It won't be better net profit on an acre of dry land, but because you can farm so many more acres in that way and you invest so much less that at the end of the year, I mean, I know guys that would give up irrigated to go acquire some more dry land if they're good at it. But then there's the guys that don't want to give it up because of they want the irrigated because of the 300 bushel per acre. But those guys that are good at dry land, they know till, they know how to eliminate Mother Nature a little bit by conserving moisture. They're probably doing better over the long haul than a lot of the irrigated guys.
That irrigation is a nice security blanket, but it's an expensive blanket to have.
You ever get an award you're embarrassed of? You're like, I didn't think this was that much of an achievement. I've got a couple of those where they give you something and Lori says, you're not going to put that on the shelf. I said, no, I don't think this is that big of a deal. I mean, do you ever get that?
I mean, I don't know when I've gotten like that, but I mean, I don't get a lot of awards outside of my little bit of industry I'm in. So, sometimes you try all year and then you get disappointed and you're like, man, I came in third or I came in second and I thought I had first this year. And I mean, you just have to take it in stride and go on and try again the next year. But I mean, at the end of the day, he's at 15 inches of rainfall. We're at 45 to 50 inches. And we can still make 100 bushel corn if it's the wrong weather in August, July. And so...
And they're not smiling on your combine.
No, because we thought...
the guy in my area is.
So where I was going with that, whatever the award is, it depends on where you live. I mean, and that's where I was going to go to. If he can make 100 bushel dryland corn, that's probably a record setter in certain parts of it.
It's also God's way of saying you shouldn't try and grow corn in the Panhandle. I mean, there is that angle on it.
It's your last step before moving to California.
What awards are we talking about? Is there any other award we should be giving in this industry? Is there another thing that I'm not thinking of that we should? I gotta say, I think a person that can make it in this business with low margins and the historical challenge that we've had, I think that person deserves some kind of a plaque. I like the innovation. I love anything that's innovation. We've done episodes with Jason Mock, who's doing some pretty shake the foundations kind of stuff that the neighbors drive by and judge. He goes right out there and does it anyhow, and also goes around and tells people about what he's learned. I think that guy deserves a plaque for that. You deserve a plaque for some of the outlandish things that you do. Not most. Some of the outlandish things you do.
I just do the things that I do that are outside the box to try to learn. I don't think, if we don't do something that's not outside the box or not extreme, you're not going to learn. We can't. Going from 120,000 population soybeans to 115, you're not going to learn much.
Yeah.
We have to go to 30.
Yeah. And you did learn a lot.
Yes.
And you learned also, don't ever do anything that makes the crop look this bad across from my dad's house. Because you learn about it every day that growing season.
Yep.
What awards should we be given? Is there anything I'm not thinking of, Galynn?
Well, I think, there will be new awards that emerge. I think what Kelly and Johnny have described a little bit is kind of what we call it AgroLiquid, that art of refinement. You see what the max you can do is. Now you start refining how you get to that point. In other words, initially you might reach your big yield by over-resourcing it, by throwing a lot of money at it. But I think eventually you have to start going, okay, I made it, but can I make it on less?
Did you say this is a real award or is this one you proposed?
It's one I proposed.
Art of Refinement? Is that what we're calling it?
Yes, Art of Refinement.
Art of Refinement, meaning how do you, basically you're saying, we've done this thing, now let's do it better with less.
Yeah.
I like that.
But along with what they just both said, me and Kelly love doing field days. We love showcasing what's working on our farm or what's not working on our farm because we want to see people get their yields up.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easier to get yields to 300 bushel across the farm more than it is 400, 500, 600 bushel, whatever the corn yields are in areas, because it's not replicated. What we're doing a lot of times is replicated because we've learned what will work and what won't work and how you can get that on a large scale too. So to me, that's a big reward because I like showing people what we've learned, whether it's good or bad, because we both have done things that did not work.
So we're going to give him a trophy for the Art of Refinement.
Art of Refinement.
I think art sounds like, though, that was just like, oh, this thing. I mean, it's almost like it's unearned.
The art of it, that's just innovation.
I like the refinement part. I'm not sure I like the art part of it.
Art makes it worth more, Damian.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, if you include the word art in the award, it's more valuable right out of the gate.
Is there anything, Art of Refinement's a pretty good thing. You know what? He likes to, things that have little catchy phrases. I told him about intentional congruence 4 years ago. He drops it once a week. He drops it into something once a week. You're going to start using Art of Refinement, aren't you?
I'm going to try. I'm going to credit Galynn every time.
Yes. I will look for that footnote.
Are you harder on yourself? This is the last thing I think we do. Are you harder on yourself on these things? Because it's not about the plaque. It's that you expected more yourself, because that's, I think, where it's not Art of Refinement. It's art of I'm never satisfied. And I'm not sure that's a good thing.
I think that can be a good thing, though, because if you're not always trying to push yourself, you're never going to get to that next level. There's so many weather events we can't control. We can get all the rainfall we need, and then you've been there, it's 115 degrees on 4th of July, heat index outside for a month. You can get all the moisture you need, and the heat's still going to zap that crop. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we're always trying to figure out ways to just take it to the next level, and if everything lines up right, we'll be rewarded for that.
Is it a bad thing not being satisfied? Mrs. Mason says sometimes that I'm not satisfied.
But like I said, I told my sons, we've taken all the fun out of this because the expectations are always incredibly high. And, with the past success we've had and things like that, the expectations are very, very high. And they're never met. But that doesn't mean that you get disappointed or anything. You're just like, well, we can do this better. And you keep the infinite game. You keep trying to improve the process.
And it doesn't mean you're not satisfied. You're satisfied, but you can do better. So I mean, there's that.
Right.
This is the Art of Refinement. That's not good stuff.
Yes, it's not a failure.
I'm glad I brought that to the conversation.
It's one of those things that's going to be in my vernacular from this point forward. I do have one last trophy I'd like to go ahead and share with you. I step off camera for a second and get this because it's just that important. This one's pretty big. This is, it's not only a huge trophy. It's just look at what it's right there. That's for Damian Mason, Wells County 2004 Farmer of the Year. I gave that to myself. Lori went to a trophy shop and her little nephew Joel said, "Hey, Lori, can we buy this for Damian?" And she says, "Why?" And it was at the top of a former trophy, and then probably from a tractor pull or something, and it didn't have any plaque on it. And so this little boy gave it to me. He said, "Because Damian's a farmer," and so he wanted to get this to Uncle Damian, and then it didn't have a plaque on it. So I went to the trophy shop and I put that on there. So I gave myself that.
So you're asking everyone over here if they're too hard on themselves.
Yeah.
And you're the opposite.
I gave myself.
You're like, I didn't do much, but I got a trophy for it.
Awarded yourself a trophy.
So he's Galynn Beer, and he apparently judges other people's accomplishments very harshly. He's with AgroLiquid. If you want to learn more about a fertility program that can help you, especially in tough economic times, because you can be spoon feeding that crop, and you hear the guys talk about that a lot, go to
agroliquid.com.
AgroLiquid.com. They sponsored this episode and a bunch of other episodes. We're glad they're here. Check it out at AgroLiquid.com. That's Johnny Verell. That's Kelly Garrett. And you know what? We talked about is agriculture award trophies, awards, plaques for the wrong accomplishments. And you heard it from these guys, what they think about that. The art of refinement, best term I've heard all day. Till next time, cheers from the Granary. All right, that's fun. Now, wait a minute. You think it's overbearing? I actually gave myself an award?
Well, I mean,
He did that.